Yo, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be having a look at the new announcement from Blackmagic. Specifically, I want to have a chat about the PYXIS camera, and I just have the video here on cue. Let's just play that video and see exactly what this camera means to us filmmakers.
It's a box or a cube camera style. It has the same image sensor and color processing as the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K. So both cameras can be used together on a shoot because they'll absolutely match perfectly. I mean, all the cameras can match really well, but they're actually the same sensor. Otherwise, it's actually quite a different camera internally. It's very customizable. It's also a full frame digital film camera, but in a box.
Straight off the bat, this camera does not seem to be a complete new design. It uses the same sensor as the full frame 6K cinema, and from what I have read online and what I have seen, it actually is the same camera internally, just rehoused in a different camera body with different connectivities, USB-C port for the viewfinder, and a few other kind of additions. But it seems to be the same camera internals, the same sensor, and just more connectivity. So I think Blackmagic could have done a bit more. Maybe redesign the sensor, maybe add a few extra stops of dynamic range. The box style camera is something that the online communities have been asking very loudly. But I think this is not the right approach. I think they should have designed a whole new camera with a better sensor and perhaps a global shutter. Maybe price it a bit higher, effectively making a better cinema camera. This camera will compete with like Red Komodos and the Sony FX6. It's kind of that style of camera, but all in all, it is not that different if you already have the Cinema 6K, which is in the pocket style body. Let's continue here.
In a box style design, it's got a 24 by 36 millimeter 6K sensor and includes an optical low pass filter as standard, and the optical filter has been tuned to match the sensor. So it's really cool. Now it has a wide dynamic range of 13 stops. It has 2 CF Express cards for storage. It also has Ethernet, so it can sync to Blackmagic Cloud, and it also records Blackmagic RAW with H.264 HD proxies. So let's have a look at some of the details. Now I have a rigged version here, so I'll move this aside and bring out the rigged one. So you can see it's fully compatible with all the Ursa Cine accessories. So it's really cool. It has everything for high-end or low-end work. Like you can do high-end films, you can do independent films, music videos, documentaries. It's just fantastic. It's an amazing design. It's all machined actually from...
So one thing I see here is that USB-C cable in the top front that powers the EV. That is a cool addition. One cable to send the video signal and the power. Unbelievable. I'm sure other accessories will be made that will suit that, and it just makes for a cleaner rig. I also like the way the EV is now mounted, because you can now potentially attach other accessories to that mounting system. It's very easy to modify, very easy to move, so the eyepiece can be exactly where you want it, as opposed to the other EV. I own that one. It's good for the Ursa when you have it on the shoulder, but it's not the best for mobility. So I'm quite happy that the USB-C connection and the way this new EV is mounted. Also, one thing I noticed here, the XLR out, it's a mini XLR. It's actually in front of the camera. I don't know if there's ones in the back of the camera, but that's an interesting placement for that kind of XLR connection. Perhaps they're aiming for the people who are using this camera with an onboard mic. You put it in front, the cable just runs shorter there to the front, but I would actually have left that cable in the back. In my opinion, I think it just works better, but they made that change. Also, I only see one mini XLR, so I hope they haven't got rid of the second one that the Pocket 6K G2 has. Because having two, you can run a lapel and a overhead boom mic, so redundancy is key when you're doing kind of critical work, that like an interview or something, that you need to make sure that you have at least a backup track. If something happens to the lapel, if it's scratching with the fabric of the clothes, you always have that overhead in a second channel, and when you're editing, that could save your your piece basically.
It's an amazing design. It's all machined actually from aircraft grade aluminum. That means it's really strong when you got things mounted on it.
The material the camera body is made of is aircraft grade aluminum. That is actually very clever. The Pocket 6K G2 is made out of like a plastic. It's like a carbon kind of fiber thing, plastic. It's actually very robust. I have a cage and everything is attached to the cage, so I don't attach anything to the camera. It doesn't have mounting holes. So the cage in my case is aluminum, so that's fine. In this case, you probably won't need a cage because the actual camera is made out of aluminum. So the bottom has a few 1/4 inch, and what else did I just see there? Let me see.
Aircraft grade aluminum. That means it's really strong when you got things mounted on it. And it has these flexible side plates for different accessories, which is an incredibly adaptable design.
Very clever what they did here with the side plate. So some people are going to use this camera as a hingy style camera. Maybe they'll have like a shoulder kind of mount or whatever. So you can put in that rosette attachment, you can put an extension arm to have the camera, or you can put an arm directly to the camera body. I'm pretty sure Small Rig and other companies are going to come up with side handles. The one thing I've seen online a lot, people complaining about, because in the other side of the camera there's no space to mount a second handle and you have that massive screen there. Some people like to have two handles to operate the camera, but in this case that would not be possible. I'm pretty sure someone will come up with a way to do it. Bad as it is, it's not possible. So you're only going to be able to have a handle in the left side of the camera and your screen in the right side of the camera. So holding it maybe in the bottom and the handle, that could work, but I'm sure people will complain online about that design choice. In another note, the plate that you can attach to the side of the camera has a rosette. I think that's an ARRI standard kind of attachment. It has a bunch of 1/4 inch, and it has the larger threads, screw threads to attach any other accessories basically. Also, I see there that there is one attachment that I think potentially could be used to store an SSD, and it has these little two straps that potentially could be the case.
You can see there. So you can get down in there and have a look. It's got a great sensor. It's full frame 35mm, open gate 3x2. It allows really shallow depth of field, so it's got the full height for anamorphic. The sensor resolution's 6048 by 4032.
He's talking about the front of the camera, the sensor size and all that stuff. We already know all this because this sensor is the same sensor. Nothing new there. We already have seen this sensor and it's already in the wild. People are trying it, people love it, and you can shoot open gate and all that stuff. But again, this is the same sensor that we've seen already.
And it's the same size LCD as the Ursa Mini Pro, but it's brighter, so it's better in daylight. Even has 3D lookup tables, which also come on the monitoring out. It has the heads-up display for status and record parameters, and you can touch the controls to adjust them. It also has a digital slate, so you can tag files with metadata for post-production.
I have to say, this is actually quite cool. The side of the camera looks sleek. Easy access to kind of all the features. I can see you can play, you can set your function buttons, and the screen is touchscreen. And we all know that the Blackmagic OS is one of the simplest and more intuitive camera menus out there. Sony one is super complicated. Canon one has multiple kind of subfolders and subfolders. So to change something on the go, if you're not familiar with that camera, can be a nightmare. So I appreciate that what they've done here. Very easy button layout, touchscreen, super easy to get around and make any changes in a production. So very handy. But
there's also a bunch of direct controls on the side there for all the important controls, such as a dedicated button for ISO, white balance, and shutter. Plus, there's also a scroll wheel for iris adjustment, which is really useful. So the an LCD is great, but all these controls can be used by feel, these manual controls, so they're really nice to have. There's also some custom assignable function keys in there as well. And you can set those buttons up for whatever functions you like. It's all done through the menus. And of course, there's the big, large red record button. Plus, there's buttons for high frame rate, focus, zoom, and grabbing stills and accessing the menus as well. So it's really cool. Actually, I'll turn it on. Switches on the back there. And I can bring the menus up. Now, on the other side, we have these custom side plates. there. And if I can grab one of the guys could bring over the cheese plate one. Now the camera's designed to be rigged, so we're never really quite sure. Cool, thanks. Didn't get this here. So you can see you can change the side plates. There's a riggable one. So we're never really quite sure how people are going to use it. So we've designed a lot of flexibility in. So having these side plates, they can be changed and you can get different types of plate, but they're really simple. I mean, people can machine their own. We'll probably have the spec of it in the manual, so you can machine your own versions of them.
That plate that we were talking about a few seconds ago, handy. You could have your phone. If you have your phone, you're connected to the cloud, so you could be potentially be shooting and sending rushes straight to Blackmagic cloud. That is very handy. The camera also have Ethernet port, so you can send that way. But if you're in a location, there's no cable, chuck your phone there, connect it via the USB-C, use the app, and begin uploading rushes from the camera while on set, and your editor could be looking at an assembly of the timeline straight from the shoot. That is actually futuristic technology. That is actually quite handy to have.
So we'll check out the back now, if we can get another.
This is what I wanted to see, the back of the camera.
There's a wide range of connections on the back. It has USB-C on the back. That lets you record to an external disc. It has 12G SDI.
There we see it. See, you potentially now don't have to have a cage with a mounting bracket for your SSD. This looks handy. So with the side plate, you potentially can have your SSD strapped in there and be recording straight to the SSD. You have your two SDIs. I think one is probably the time code and the other one is for the monitor. And then the internet port, 12 volt 2-pin connector to power the camera. There's an on-off switch there in the back. I was wondering where it was. And lastly, we can use those Sony LP batteries, but this time you can actually put the fat ones, not just the normal ones that go inside the 6K Pro or the G2. You can now use the super fat ones. Well, I actually have one here. So in the Pocket 6K, you can only use this LP60s. Although these batteries work very well, gives you a lot of shooting time. I think I'm getting around an hour with one of these batteries. In this new PYXIS camera, you potentially can put one of these chunky bad boys. This one has 5 times the capacity of this one. So potentially you can power the camera for a good few hours, and that is handy to have when you're in location and you don't have the ability to be plugged to the mains. Big chunky battery like this will give you plenty of recording time without having to worry to change the battery. So that's a plus.
For on-set monitoring, obviously SDI is better than HDMI because you can run the longer cable lengths, and the monitoring output has the dedicated overlays, if you can get that.
Oh yeah, one big change, I was thinking about it. I have the Ursa. Ursa has SDIs. I think SDI is the best connection to have monitors. The Pocket has HDMIs to connect the monitor. It's a good connection if you have like an inexpensive monitor on top of the camera like I have right now. But SDI, way better connection. You can send longer cables like he's mentioning there. So that is actually cool, and that connection actually has like a lock mechanism, so it's more secure. If the camera is moving all over the place, you're guaranteed that cable is not going to pop out like it might in the HDMI cables. HDMI is not a cable to put in something that you're going to be moving around and disconnecting. It's for monitors. You connect it, you leave it there, and that's it, end of it. You're not going to change that cable until the monitor stops working. Another thing, CF Express. That is a handy move. I have CFast cards. They're super expensive. I use them for the Ursa, sometimes for the Pocket, although in the Pocket I generally shoot in the T7 SSD from Samsung, and I have like a 1 terabyte one. I haven't had a need to shoot in anything else since I got that SSD. But moving to these new cards, hopefully CF Express go down in price faster, because now they've been adopted by kind of other cameras like the R5 and kind of other camera manufacturers are adapting this standard. So CFast, it's sadly gone away, but they're too expensive. So I think it's a good move, moving away from CFast and to CF Express. It has 2 slots, that's very handy. But again, if you're using SSDs I would say most people won't be actually using those CF Express slots, but it's there if you want them.
Now the camera also includes a media browser on the side, so you can browse media and upload to Blackmagic Cloud. You can sync to Blackmagic Cloud.
Yeah, so because they updated that Blackmagic OS, in my latest video I mentioned it, how to update the Pocket 6K G2, or actually all the Pocket lineup. This new addition to be able to browse files, delete files on the camera and send directly to the cloud is actually quite handy. And I've seen that they're incorporated in this new camera, which is obvious. It opens up the camera to be used in different kind of styles of work, and as he said, you can edit straight from the camera, which I probably wouldn't do, but you can upload straight to the cloud the files as you're recording them. That's actually quite handy.
So you can share media globally with DaVinci Resolve users. It records proxies and Blackmagic Raw at the same time. So it'll sync the proxies first, so the post-production team get the media almost instantly.
Yeah, that's actually a cool thing to notice. This camera can shoot the original RAW file and a proxy at the same time, so it will save you a lot of time if you're doing that, because you are on location shooting. You can hand that footage over and your editor can begin cutting from the proxies. If you're sending to the cloud, the proxies will be uploaded first, so the editor will get a fast access to those kind of rushes, begin working in the edit, and then hopefully once the edit is kind of in a somewhat rough state, the original raw media will be finished uploading, and then you can relink your files, or you can, if you're in DaVinci Resolve, super straightforward, and if you're in Premiere, it's also straightforward, and then you can grade and deliver. So this is actually quite handy for workflow, for speed and efficiency. And also if your editor, it's in a different country, say I'm in Ireland and my editor's in America, I can just allow him to make a rough cut from the proxies, and my color grader, it's here in Ireland. I can hand him like the physical backup in a hard drive, or I can send him through the internet, which we in Ireland have very fast internet, so it's doable, maybe a couple of hours for a terabyte. And you can then finish your product, so effectively having the camera crew in a country, the post-production in a different country, and the finalizing post-production team, color grading, sound mixing, all that in a third location, which is like a trend in the last few years to work remotely. So effectively your team can be anywhere in the world and you can still work together
almost instantly. And you can, if you select the DaVinci Resolve project on the camera, you can record and essentially sync right into the bin. So as you shoot, the shots are actually arriving in the DaVinci workstations right in the bin from the editors. So that's never been possible for us. So it's really cool. It's very amazing, and it's constantly syncing. So even from multiple cameras. So you just need to connect the internet or a phone for mobile data to the camera, and you can start uploading Blackmagic RAW files or the proxies or both. So it's really cool. The other thing it does is it supports live streaming. So you can live stream to your clients. They could watch the shoot live.
This is actually quite handy. The live streaming features, they actually allowed the Pocket 6K to basically do that. You can live stream, use it as a webcam basically. But now this camera can do it while recording. And for example, I have a few clients that are from Canada, and I will do interviews for them. They do a lot of like corporate interviews with kind of international companies. So they don't have crews in all the countries they shoot on. The director is in Canada. He just logs into like a Zoom call or whatever, and I can show him the frame and record. This is actually very handy now because Blackmagic now has a way to do this that is easier and more straightforward. So if my director is not on location, I can kind of set my scene, put my lights, all that, show the frame, and the director can be watching the live feed from the camera while I'm recording, say, an interview. It's actually a quite handy feature to have. So okay, that was it. That was the section I was interested in. Blackmagic released a bunch of products. There's way too much to condense it into one video. I put a link to this video release, and if you have the time, you can watch the whole thing. But all I wanted to kind of see is what is this PYXIS camera? Who is it for? And from my point of view, it is a very cool kind of redesign of an existing camera. They already have that same camera in a different form factor with a few different connections. Blackmagic has listened to the people and created that box style camera that everybody wanted, but sadly it's not a new product altogether. It's just a rehousing of an existing product, and they added a bunch of features that maybe will make this camera sell better than the cinema camera. Would I change my Pocket 6K G2 for that camera? I don't think I would. It doesn't record any kind of higher frame rate slow-mo clips than the Pocket 6K G2. And over the cinema camera, they didn't implement a global shutter, which I think they should have. If the PYXIS camera had a global shutter and maybe 240 frames a second, it would be an unbelievable beast of a camera, and I'm sure a lot of people would have changed. But all in all, it is a cool camera. If you have a Pocket 4K, is it worth it? 100% worth it. If you have the Pocket Cinema camera, I don't think it's worth the upgrade. But anyhow, that's my thoughts on this new announcement. Hope you enjoyed the video and I wasn't rambling all over the place too much. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.